Good morning, everyone. Take one of these out. I hope you all saw the premiere of our January 6th special feature. Of course, we have gotten possession now of the unreleased video footage. Briefly on that, okay, so we have access to the 40,000 plus hours. We're able to watch it at an undisclosed location. We need to request when we want to request clips. We have to request within a certain time frame, and then there's a very long process for it. And so we have to kind of selectively choose which ones we think are most relevant to people, and then try to put them all together. It's a very daunting process. The special feature we just aired. Of course, you can watch it still. It's going to be on EpochTV. That special feature is a collection of, it's a lot. I mean, this is months of work. Again, my colleague Joe Hanneman, really, he deserves a lot of the credit, or most of the credit for that, I'd say. But really, that shows what I think is a full picture of generally what took place that day. And we're going to be doing a lot of coverage going forward as well. My colleague Joe, of course, writing a lot of articles, publishing a lot of those clips. And as we get them, we'll consider doing more features if we feel that there's something relevant enough to, that makes it necessary. But I do feel the video we published really breaks a lot of new ground. I'll do a shorter news section today, and we'll go into questions. I want to talk to you first about Trump, then we'll go into how the January 6th committee is destroying evidence. But for any J6 stuff, we have to show it on Epoch TV. We cannot show you on YouTube. YouTube will give us strikes for this. They'll like put my channel on hold at the very least. So let's go first into what's happening with Trump. Then we'll go into what the J6 committee is doing, deleting evidence, destroying evidence actually that Trump needs for the trial he's facing in Washington, which they've chosen to do actually around January 3rd, I believe, so they can do it in context of J6 and also interfere with the elections. We'll get into that, though, of course, in a minute. First, let's talk about Donald J. Trump. And he has now refused to sign the pledge to the GOP to recognize if they choose a different candidate to lead the party, to recognize them and saying he will not run against them. Trump is refusing to do it. Let me show you the report first, then I'll give my take. PJ Media, they say Trump says he will not. He's not going to do it. Won't sign pledge to support GOP nominee, putting his debate attendance in doubt. It says Donald Trump's participation in the first Republican debate on August 23rd in Milwaukee is now in doubt after the former president stated he would not sign the pledge to support the eventual GOP nominee. And Trump said, quote, "Why would I sign it? I can name 3 or 4 people that I wouldn't support for president. So right there's a problem." He said there's also the problem with the Republican National Committee's rules on debates participation. In addition to meeting fundraising and polling requirements, the rules include the pledge to support the GOP nominee. And Trump said again, sorry, this is the pledge now. The pledge states, "I affirm," this is what Trump refused to sign, "I affirm that if I do not win the 2024 Republican nomination of President of the United States, I will honor the will of the primary voters and support the nominee in order to save our country and beat Joe Biden." Sounds like they wrote that just for Trump, to be honest. Candidates must also pledge not to run as an independent, write-in candidate, or a third-party ticket. My personal take: thank goodness Trump is not signing it. Thank goodness Trump is not going to sign that document. Because as soon as his name is on there, I guarantee before the ink is even dry, there are going to be people trying to use that contract to make sure he cannot be the Republican nominee. Before the ink is even dried on that paper, you would have probably even before you would have people plotting against him because they did it all through his candidacy. They did it all during the time when he was president, and they're still doing it right now as we speak. And they would do everything in their power to ensure that his signing that document would be a legally binding document that would prevent him from running for president. My take on it, of course, You have of course the Justice Department going after Donald J. Trump. You have the Biden administration clearing the way and working with the Justice Department on that. You have political actors and agitators all around the country trying to again bring charges against him. You have DOJ and Soros-backed judges and prosecutors working very much against him. And people have been saying it's a lot of the Democrats, but look, there's a lot of people in the Republican Party too who are on that side. And they talk about the uniparty, i.e., the system, the powers that be that exist regardless of political parties. And you also have the quote unquote rhinos, Republicans in name only, the old warmongering party, basically. The military industrial complex type party and the pharma based party that exists across both lines that hates Trump. And you would have those very powerful people using this. Now, if Trump were to sign that paper, of course, he would be joining the Republican debates and he'd be on the same stage with Mike Pence, because Mike Pence actually did reach the fundraising threshold now, with Vivek Ramaswamy, with Ron DeSantis, and he'd be debating, and maybe a few others, and he'd be debating, of course, with them. And you'd have Mike Pence making his claims that Trump, started an insurrection or whatever his narrative is now. You'd have Ron DeSantis arguing the elections were totally fine. They were not rigged. That's his narrative now. And you'd have Vivek, who's actually, I'd say relatively, seems at least to be defending Trump. I know some of his former statements go otherwise, but honestly, you had a lot of people who, flip-flopped on whether they like Trump or not, and maybe still do flip-flop. And so you can't necessarily judge people on that by old tweets and such, right? That said, Vivek, as Symphonic Ellen is noting, he's actually suing the Department of Justice, actually defending Trump, which is interesting. It looks like Pence in particular, and even DeSantis now, at least with the recent indictment of Trump, they're turning very much against him. And personally, I'd say it's likely the Republican Party, if Trump were to sign that document, would probably turn against him as well. Technically, it's very hard for them to do that. Trump is polling significantly higher than anybody. He's roughly 40 points above the next in line, depending on where you're looking at. But that's roughly the average number you're going to see across the board. DeSantis looks like he's even falling behind Vivek now. Roughly, Vivek is at 10 points. Again, it depends on where you look. Of course, things can change, especially if the public decides to change its opinions based on emerging information and evidence. But right now, it looks like, frankly, Trump supporters are pretty well rooted, and we can see the stuff they've stuck with him through as of now. I can't see anything they could possibly throw at him that will change that. The worst that will happen is if, what they say here, which stuck out to me, in the pledge they were asking everybody to sign, including Trump, I will honor the will of the primary voters and support the nominee in order to save our country and beat Joe Biden. One of the big narratives that people are pushing in order to ask Trump not to run or to push him out is we need a candidate who can beat Joe Biden. We need a candidate who can win. You'll see a lot of the DeSantis supporters, for example. That's what they're saying, all over Twitter, all day long, constantly, almost every tweet. They a lot of them really don't like Trump, and the argument they have is that they say Trump can't win, that he wouldn't be able to unify enough people. He wouldn't be able to bring in the establishment Republicans or the moderate Republicans, and they're saying he wouldn't be able to win. So the narrative of we need someone who can beat Joe Biden, it plays into that narrative. Given that I personally do think Trump could win, I think polling does suggest that as well. But again, it's your opinion. I have mine. Everybody has theirs. That said, let's jump over to Epoch TV because I want to talk about January 6th. In particular, the J6 committee destroying evidence, including evidence that Trump would have gotten through discovery that he actually needs to make his case in his legal defense. Now, look, if Trump was doing this, they'd throw him in prison. The real funny irony of this, the almost sick humor at play, the dark comedy we're watching unfold, is that what the J6 committee is representing is mostly charges against Americans who were at the Capitol building, and I'll jump over a minute, who are at the Capitol building and who are being charged with, for example, disrupting an official proceeding. That charge was not meant to be like you disrupt the government from, carrying out an act of government. That disrupting an official proceeding law was made around Enron, and in particular to prevent the destruction of legal evidence when you're facing potential investigations or charges. The horrible, dark humor at play right now is that the J6 committee is doing the very thing in actual, real application of the law that they're accusing everybody else of doing falsely. It's like, it's funny in a disgusting way. It is such sick humor. The J6 committee is actually doing the very thing in actual practice that they're accusing others of doing who did not do what they say they're doing. Again, destroying evidence for a case. And when Trump needs to defend himself, that's going to be important. We'll see what happens with it. I don't think it's legal for them to do that, but they did it anyway. And I assume they believe the Justice Department is enough on their side that they can violate the law without punishment. So let's jump over to Epoch TV. We'll talk about that, then we'll discuss the special footage we got. The special feature just published on J6. That said, YouTube will give me strikes. I walk a very thin line with any J6 content. My producer's probably already sweating bullets because I'm talking about it. So let's jump over to Epoch TV. Link in the description. Of course, let me show you the trailer of the special feature we just premiered. You can watch this right now on Epoch TV, EpochTV.com, and I'll see you there.
So what was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it. The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
45 pages, here it is right here. Donald Trump has been indicted.
Somber day for the country.
This all happened before President Trump's speech was over.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years.
His lawyers didn't have this video. The video we're watching right now, his own lawyers did not have. There was a big question of what did the people do who actually did enter the building.
This is where we picked it up with the security footage that is new. At this point, the story dramatically changes.
The New Jersey man who assaulted a Capitol police officer on January 6th has been sentenced.
So this was withheld.
This was not shown to the defense.
That could be considered exculpatory evidence. This doesn't seem like what a lot of the media is showing.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is. What we're after is the truth.
All right, again, that is now published. You can watch that episode, that special feature we just did on Epoch TV, EpochTV.com. And I will see you there.